It seems there's a phrase being thrown around the influencer sphere quite a bit lately. The phrase, mentorship. In truth, it seems that mentorship has merely become a replacement term for coaching. And put simply, they're not the same thing at all. And becoming aware and understanding the difference is one of the more important distinctions you can make going forward in your career. I've spent time with both. I've been both. And in this video, I'm going to tell you all about those experiences, the people who have filled those roles over my 30-plus year career, the impact they had and continue to have, and why both coaching and mentorship can be so integral to a long-term career. For those of you new to the channel, I'm Tony Luca, singer, songwriter, producer, and musical mentor. If this is the kind of stuff you're into, go ahead, drop a like and a share, and be sure to subscribe. Drawing the line. Here's the simplest way I know to put it. A coach doesn't need to have walked the path. A mentor has no choice but to have walked it. Coaching is transferable. Mentorship is earned. You can train to be a coach. You can't train to be a mentor. You can only live long enough and honestly enough to eventually become one. A good coach can help you identify your goals, walk you through the paces to get there, ultimately providing encouragement and accountability along the way. A mentor provides insight by way of their own experience, sharing the blood and guts of their own journey. The idea being that they are, or at least have been, precisely where you want to be. One speaks of method, one speaks of life actually lived. Both matter, but they're doing completely different jobs. And if you go looking for one and find the other, you're going to wind up wasting a lot of time and money wondering why it isn't working. Finding a mentor. To be honest, no one ever taught me the importance of seeking out and finding a good mentor. Fans of mine know that I got an early start in the business, and before I even realized it, I was surrounded by people all too willing to show me all the so-called tricks of the trade. Over the years, there were a handful I'd say had the most profound impact on my life and career. They gave me the goods, precisely when I needed them, and delivered from the other side of an experience I just hadn't had yet. That's mentorship. Uncle Terry. The first mentor I ever had didn't realize he was mentoring me. I was about 10 or 11 years old. So my mom was the 10th of 12 kids, all of whom could either sing or play some kind of instrument. Some even had professional careers. But the one I grew closest to was my mom's younger brother, Terry. To me, growing up, Terry was a cross between like Paul McCartney and Jim Carrey. Brilliant performer and far and away the funniest person I'd ever met. He played a lot of local restaurants and cocktail lounges and would always ask if I wanted to sit in. Even as a little 10-year-old kid, he showed me how to get right up on the microphone and how to project and connect to an audience. He would often come by the house and show me things on the piano. He showed me how to pour my heart into a song when no one was around, especially when no one was around. He wasn't just teaching me an entire skill set. He was showing me my very own potential. 30 years later, I rarely step to a microphone or sit down at the piano and not think of the impact he had on my craft. Thanks, Uncle Terry. Robin Wiley. When I was on the Mickey Mouse Club, our vocal coach was a woman named Robin Wiley. And I want to be precise about this because for most of the cast, she was exactly that, a vocal coach. She worked with everyone on their vocal technique, their vocal health and sustainability. She would prepare everybody for their recording sessions and their live performances. She was brilliant at it, and we were lucky to have her. For me, though, it was somehow a little different. I don't know if it's because maybe I had told her I had already done some gigs back in my garage band days in Detroit, or that I had told her I was convinced I was going to be a rock star someday. Either way, she treated me like a seasoned pro, like a peer. We developed our own shorthand right away, which made my time in the vocal booth that much more fun and enjoyable. We shared a love of Stevie Wonder. She introduced me to jazz pianist Bill Evans and John Coltrane. And she always spoke of things that I would no doubt encounter in my career well after Mouse Club. When I eventually landed in Nashville years later, she took me in, let me crash on her couch, an honor I happened to share with the one and only Ryan Tedder. Yeah, she was one of his early mentors too. She'd break me off all kinds of industry insight over red wine and Chinese takeout. That's the thing about mentorship. It doesn't announce itself. It just quietly becomes something more than it was supposed to be. Egizi. Egizi was the music producer of the Mickey Mouse Club. And what he did for me, I didn't fully begin to understand until years after I left the show. Before Mike, I didn't know what a music producer did. I didn't know the difference between a music producer or an engineer. I didn't know how an analog tape recorder worked or what punching in meant. But seeing as though I spent more time on the show in the recording studio than I did in the dance trailer, I wound up getting a bit more time with Mike than most of the cast, and I took full advantage. Mike let me get my fingers on the faders of the console, showed me what all the gear was for. He taught me how to keep time while tracking vocals and how to stack vocals. He even showed me the super secret production parlor trick of the whisper track. Look it up. It's fascinating. I actually made it out on my first tour with Mike. And just like any cool big brother, he helped us find all the best jazz and comedy clubs of all the cities we toured through. He'd often convince the door people that we were credible artists on tour and vouch for us not drinking, even though we were way too young to be sneaking in. I wrote some of my earliest songs with Mike, and I still apply the lessons I learned from those sessions to this day. The best mentors don't just meet you where you are. They invest in where you're going, even when you can't see it yet. Mike could see it, and I'm still cashing those checks. Adam Levine. For those of you following the channel, you know I've already shared a few anecdotes of my time on The Voice and how Adam Levine really held my feet to the fire and forced me out of my comfort zone and straight into the next chapter of my career. As a finalist, I wound up getting as much time with him as a contestant gets to have with a coach on that show. Now, a little behind the scenes here, there are actual vocal coaches on The Voice. Trained professionals whose grasp of the instrument goes well beyond that of the celebrity coaches in the red chairs. They work with contestants who might need a little redirection or help in literally getting ready for prime time. I worked with them, and I got precisely what I needed from them. They no doubt played a major role in my success on the show. But what Adam brought to the table went far above and beyond that kind of assistance. Most of our time was spent strategizing over what next song to sing and how to present myself and whatnot. But at one point, when it got down to just me and one other Team Adam finalist, Adam was asked to be a guest on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And as a bonus, his two finalists were asked to join Ricky Martin and The Tonight Show band to sing and perform throughout the show in between commercials. Cool, right? Well, the night before that, Adam and I were texting back and forth about the song I was going to sing that week. And as we were wrapping up, I texted him, "Get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow at Leno." And he texted me back, "Ha, you just said, I'll see you tomorrow at Leno. A little free advice? Don't ever get used to it." You can train to be a coach, but nobody trained Adam to break me off some advice like that. That came from him having been exactly where I was, knowing how temporary and fleeting all of it can be. That's mentorship. Josh Kear. And then there's the mentorship that doesn't look like mentorship at all. The kind that happens over lunch, or on a phone call, or in a conversation that starts out about something else entirely. One of the first people I met when I moved to Nashville was Grammy Award-winning songwriter Josh Kear. Ironically, though, it wasn't through music. It was through our kids. Our daughters were enrolled in the same school and became each other's first best friends. And they're still besties to this day. Which meant that by default, if nothing else, Josh and I were going to at least become friendly, if not actual friends. Fortunately, it was the latter. To state the obvious, there probably couldn't be a more clear example of someone being precisely where I was trying to get in my career than a celebrated songwriter, husband, and father. And other than the time I went so far as to pin Josh down for an interview for a podcast I was trying to get together, I've tried to remain mindful of not talking shop when we get together, for obvious reasons. That said, it was only a matter of time before our mutual friends and connections would begin to overlap, before the nature of all of our conversations would inevitably circle back to the craft and business of songwriting. Let's just say that sometimes being a mentee often entails just being at the right place at the right time, listening for the lessons inherent in a good conversation with someone who's merely further down the very path you yourself are already on. Josh would probably laugh if he heard me call him a mentor. And that's precisely what makes him a good one. The best ones never think of themselves that way. They're often just being a friend, and you're just smart enough to pay attention. The other side. And then there's the part of this I didn't see coming. The moment when younger artists started finding me. Not for a lesson, not for a connection, but just to talk. To ask me how I navigated something they're actually going through. And somewhere in those conversations, I began to realize that I had become, without ever deciding to, a mentor. I recall bringing a young artist out on the road with me years ago who had just graduated from the Berklee School of Music, one of the most prestigious music institutes in the world. And after a couple weeks, he said that I had shown him more about what a music career entails than he had learned in 4 years there. And it's not a humble brag, but it does illustrate the point. Sometimes the only way there is to follow those who have actually been there. You don't apply to become a mentor. You don't get certified. The people who need you have a way of finding you. And usually right around the time you finally made enough mistakes to be useful. I started this channel with one objective, to share my 30 plus years of industry insight with those who might stand to benefit from hearing it. And if you've been following along, chances are that's you. That said, if you're in the market for a mentor, or you're just curious what kind of impact an asset like that might have on your career, go ahead, email me, mentorship@tonyluca.com, and we can get the conversation started. I don't offer a course or a program, just a bit of structured access to a wealth of insight from someone who's been there, done that, lived to tell the tale. None of my most important mentors ever said, "I am your mentor." They just showed up, told me the truth, and trusted me to do something with it. My uncle had a microphone when I was 10, Robin in a rehearsal room when I was 14, Mike as a producer before I knew what a producer was, Adam via a text I hardly saw coming, and Josh over lunch on a Tuesday in Nashville. None of them offered me a system. All of them handed me a mirror. And that's the most and the least I can offer you. If this is something you needed to hear, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're ready to dig a little deeper, you know where to find me.